We're going to work with another substitution problem, but now instead of one that wasn't starting out as a quadratic, it was like x to the fourth. The last one was a rational exponent. This one is going to be negative exponents, but it's still the same concept. Right? It's you know you want to use a quadratic, you know you want to solve it that way, but somehow, some way you got to turn it into a quadratic, right? This is not a quadratic. This is negative exponents, and it's can't be solved right now. Right, so we're going to go ahead and remember the middle term, x to the negative 1. That's what u is going to equal. Alright, so that's all we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and let u equal x to the negative 1. When you square that, u squared is going to equal x to the negative second power. So our quadratic now becomes 6u squared plus u minus 2, and that equals 0. A couple ways to solve. Factor, quadratic formula, complete the square. You cannot square root it because you've got those two variables. Right? But I'm going to go ahead and factor this, and you're going to see that as I factor it, top left, 6u squared, bottom right, negative 2. Those two middle boxes, they need to add to a positive u. I figured out my numbers. I'm going to use a 2u and a 3u, and then I'm using the plus 2 and the minus 1. So when I fill in my box, I end up getting 4u and negative 3u. That adds to my positive u. So my factors right now are 3u plus 2, and then 2u minus 1. Remember, I got to set each of those equal to 0. I got to solve, so I get negative 2/3 and positive 1/2. Alright, so we solved for each of those factors individually. Once you find it, if you can factor it, go ahead and start solving. Now remember, just like with our other substitution problems, these aren't done. Alright, we replaced our x variable with u, so now we got to go back. We got to replace our u with x, and we got to do some solving. I'll show you some nice, easy ways to be able to solve these types of problems. Alright, so we're at this point where u is equal to negative 2/3 and u is equal to 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and replace u. U was x to the negative 1. So now our equation should read x to the negative 1 is equal to negative 2/3, and x to the negative 1 is equal to 1/2. Alright, now from here, we got to solve for x. But remember, x to the negative 1, guys, it's a negative exponent. We should know how to rewrite these. These are exponent properties. This is all algebra. So, like I told you, algebra 2, we're taking all the stuff that we did from algebra 1, we're expanding upon it. We're getting really, really intense with it. Alright, so just like camping. So x to the negative 1 should be written as 1 over x. So we want the positive exponents. So I'm going to rewrite these equations now. 1 over x is equal to negative 2/3, and 1 over x is equal to 1/2. Well, these are just two fractions equal to each other. You know how to solve these. All right, we got to get to the point where, hey, you see it, you do it. It's got to be just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do some cross multiplying. I end up getting negative 2x is equal to 3, which means x is equal to negative 3 over 2. And then I end up cross multiplying the other side, and I get x is equal to 2. So you rewrite your negative exponent as a positive exponent, and you do some cross multiplying if you can, and then you just check. Check to make sure that they both work. And you're going to find out that both of these answers, negative 3/2 and 2, they're both going to work. All right, so this was another substitution problem. We did 3 of them. We did one where we had to rewrite it, so we didn't have x to the 4th. We just had something that was squared. Then we had rational exponents, and now this one was a negative exponent. But you can still solve these using substitution. So 3 ways to solve an equation using one method, using substitution. And then once you change it into that quadratic, it's your choice. Do you want to use quadratic formula? Do you want to go ahead and do the quadratic formula, the factoring, the square root method? It's up to you, completing the square. There's lots of different types of methods, but make sure that you use substitution if and when possible.